Hello viewers, welcome back to Daily Retro. Today we've got episode 4 of Guide to Games Rooms, and today we have Pete from onaretrotip. Say hello, Pete.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you on. So we'll jump straight into it. A lot of people may know you from some other community-based videos, but you've got a very impressive games room, if I do say myself. So question 1 is, when did your games room first appear?
It's a funny question in that because we moved around quite a lot because we rent, so we don't own the house. So, I mean, we've been here like 2.5, nearly 3 years. I'm just trying to think. Previous house had a game room. House before that had a game room. House before that, I had like everything in my bedroom. So it kind of like, as the collection evolved, and it just got to the point where it was too much to have kind of on bookcases in the lounge or in the bedroom or wherever it was.
So when did you have like a first like dedicated room as such? It doesn't have to be in this house, obviously.
Yeah, so that would have been like 3 houses ago. So 8-9 years ago.
Oh, cool! That's quite a long time then.
Yeah, so we had like that was our first 3-bed, and we don't have kids. It's only the 2 of us anyway. And the kind of loft room had been converted into a bedroom, so I kind of had that, and it was out the way. And then the last house we moved to, it was more of a kind of going in. The thought was it's going to be a game room, you know, but still there was like a wardrobe in there and some other stuff in there. It was never like 100% the game room. So this house is the first one where it's like 100% game room, right? So I guess yeah, that would be the answer. It's like 8-9 years since I had a game room, but this one is about 2.5-3 years.
So off-topic question related to that: when did the YouTube channel start? Did it start after you had a games room or before?
Yeah, that would have been after. So I started YouTube in that house where I had the loft room. Yeah. So I started YouTube, it was just over 7 years ago now. So it would have been a year or 2 into having a dedicated game room, you know.
Oh, cool. Quite similar to myself then. Right, so we'll move on to question 2, which will probably be a bit elongated because of how you've answered the previous question, but how long did your room take to build, or was it a slow evolution? So maybe just talk about the current room.
Yeah, so I'd say it was kind of a slow evolution over 2 years, but I mean, what I did was coming in here was really planned it out, the space, like meticulously, because having had a couple of game rooms, I was like, right, I'm going to measure everything and I'm going to get everything, you know, without it being really busy. I want everything set up and nice and everything. And you learn from previous game rooms, like the pitfalls you fall into and everything. So, yeah, I mean, I did some end of last year, I did some kind of new stuff, and I had to get a desk in here for working from home. And so there's been gradual bits and pieces, but I think like I'm really happy with how it is now. So it did probably take a couple of years slowly to get it exactly how I wanted it, I think.
Oh, cool. So that moves us on to question 3. Was there an inspiration where your game room came from? Have friends in real life have got games rooms, or have you just done it from YouTube?
Yeah, I mean, there's probably inspirations. So when I first started, when I had that first game room, I was very much like a hoarder collector, you know, just collecting absolutely everything in sight, as you do when you first start. And, you know, anything I haven't got, I'll buy. And it ended up just being like masses of stuff and just loads of overflow. And I started I watch a lot of YouTube, and I kind of just started admiring the game rooms that were more focused rather than just, you know, not that there's anything wrong if people want to collect walls of games and stuff, that's fine. I just kind of moved away from that, and it wasn't really for me. So it was nice having seeing games rooms that were like really focused on the setup, like having everything ready to go and to play, and having some decent CRTs and stuff like that. And I really started admiring the hardware side of the rooms rather than just walls of games and maybe one TV. I always find it funny that certain people, if they have like walls and Mega Drive games and SNES games and they don't have a CRT, for example, like I always find that interesting, right? But yeah, I just wanted like everything really ready to go. So I always admired those rooms, and people like good friends like Alex, Nintendo Arcade, for example. If you go to his game room, there's like CRT set up and you can just sit down and play, and everything's ready to play. And I always really kind of liked that setup, rather than coming into a room full of games and then spending so long looking at the shelves. What am I going to play? And then you've got to pull out the console and go and plug it in and all this. I'd rather have stuff ready to go. So that's kind of the inspiration, just channels that were I wouldn't say minimalist, because any normal human that comes into my room's really small and my collection's not the biggest, but any normal human that comes in here is like, Jesus Christ, I think it's a shock for normal people, but I just liked those rooms that were they looked like they'd been designed in a way, rather than they looked like they just had stuff crammed into them,
Yeah, more functional and based on nostalgia rather than just hoarding as such.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think I need to get up to CRT myself, to be honest, because I've got my original Mega Drive and I can't play it on a CRT because as a techie, I think the reliability aspect just annoys me a bit too much. But I think if I put my mind to it, I could probably learn to sort of upkeep them.
Well, I've got 4 CRTs in here, and I've never had one go wrong on me.
Yeah. As long as you buy good quality ones, they're going to last a very long time. Okay, so favorite item or feature of your game stream. So you mentioned previous question that you sort of designed your room based on trying to make everything easy to access and play. But is that the favorite feature, or is there something else?
Yeah, I think that's up there. I think that just having everything, and you got, I've got various screens and everything's ready, and you can turn on a couple of plugs in here and literally the whole room turns on. So like, if I have people round, and just everything's wired into a couple of plug sockets. So just because I always turn everything off at the wall whenever I leave this room, because I'm just paranoid about it burning down. So yeah, I turn a couple of plugs on here and like literally everything turns on, and then because you've got SCART switches and stuff, you can just press any button and you've got playing any console, and everything's got EverDrives in anyway. I love that. And I can just come in here and turn stuff on and play. And, since I kind of revamped this room, I've just been playing so much in here, which is great, playing loads of DOS gaming and loads of Mega Drive and stuff. That's probably my favorite feature. I also like that which is out of shot up there, but the LED display that Goodwin's Place Craig made me, which displays like arcade marquees and other stuff in like LED panels. I do love that. It's like it's funny because on video it doesn't look great, but in person it looks amazing. It's like a real kind of focal point for the room, so I do like having that. So yeah, I'd say if I had to pick one thing that was a favorite feature, it would be that. But on the whole, yeah, the accessibility of everything and just being able to switch it on and go is really really awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm kind of the same, to be honest, when it comes to power. So I've got 2 8-way power banks, whatever you call them, and they've all got individual switches for every single console. So, and a lot of people don't really. People just think, oh, you're mad. Why do you bother going through all the effort? Just leave it on all the time. But actually, if you do that, you're prolonging the life of the power supplies of most of your stuff, because capacitors are essentially on even when they're on standby. So yeah, boring but useful.
That's it.
So question number 5. I'm going to be intrigued to the answer to this. So what's the most expensive item in your games room? So I noticed there's some vintage PC stuff, which I'm having a guess that one of those pieces might be the most expensive, but I might be wrong.
Oh, what would be that guess?
It would be the Dell PC.
Oh, do you know what? I doubt it. I mean, I paid. Lee Retro Chef picked that up for me. It was like an eBay deal, right? And the guy I'd been after one for ages, so that kind of spec, because it was a Pentium 3 and it had an Oriole Vortex like chip sound card in it. And I thought, yeah, shopping around for one, and some guy put it up on eBay for 100 quid. And I thought I'd offer 75 quid, but if he says no, I'll pay 100 quid all day long. That's nothing, that's nothing. So I just offered 75 quid, and he's like, yeah, sure. So Lee picked it up for me, so that was a bargain. And then I put a Voodoo 2 in it, which cost 75, so that's 150. And I paid 100 quid for the monitor, which is a bargain. That monitor, it's a Mitsubishi Diamond Pro. I was bidding on one of those on eBay, and I thought putting 100 quid, that'll win it easy. It went for 450. And I was like, what the hell is happening here? 450 for an old CRT monitor.
Yeah, some vintage PC stuff just goes for extortionate amounts.
Yeah.
You never really know what it is until you're trying to find it.
But they are like, they're like the creme de la creme. They're like kind of same technology as the Sony flat screen CRTs, the late CRT monitors. But yeah, and then another one popped up, another tuber actually. Gruss Newton picked that up for me because it was in Yorkshire, and it just popped up on eBay. I think it was like on starting bid tenner or whatever, and I just put in an offer 100 quid, and he accepted. So I don't know if he didn't know what he had or what, but he was probably happy, and I'm happy. So yeah, I mean, even with the monitor, that only cost me 250. That whole setup. My Amiga, I mean, what they're worth versus what I paid is very different. Like I've got an Amiga 1200 with the hard drive inside and an accelerator, which I paid 300 quid for many years ago. But they've gone crazy the last couple of years in lockdown. I think I've seen them go for like 600 now.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, there's probably a few big box PC games that are worth something like Paprium, the arcade stick, is probably worth a fair bit. Even the game, the game's selling for a fair bit. They're probably pricey. I don't know. There's nothing really crazy in here. Like I look at the, there's probably loads of Dreamcast and Mega Drive and Vectrex games that are worth 100 or 200 quid or whatever, but I'm not sure really. Like I never really paid over 100 quid for a game myself. And I got signed stuff, like my signed Doom 2. I mean, the Doom 2 is probably worth a fair bit on its own, but like signed stuff's not really worth anything. If anything, it lowers the value of it. It's just worth more to me, sentimentality or whatever. But so yeah, I mean, it's probably like single thing is probably the Amiga 1200 or maybe.
Okay, cool. Is that was people may or may not know this, but was that one of your first ever computers?
Yeah, so Amiga 500 was the first ever computer we had. So when I was a kid, we had I don't know really the timeline of stuff because I had a Mega Drive and a Game Boy, but I don't know when I got them. But I know when we got the Amiga 500 because we got the Screen Gems pack, and it was only sold for about 6 months. So I know there's that 6-month window, and my dad must have bought it, and that was late 1990 into early 1991. So I think it was something like October 90 till April 91. So it must have been in that window. My dad just came home with it. It wasn't Christmas or birthday or anything. He just came home with a computer and said, "Oh, I got a computer for work or whatever." I never saw him on it. But yeah, that Screen Gems pack, it was kind of all themed around movies, games based on movies. So it was Back to the Future 2, Days of Thunder, which was shockingly bad, Nightbreed, and then it had Shadow of the Beast 2 and Deluxe Paint 2. Shadow of the Beast 2 was the only game in there that wasn't themed on a film. And I guess they just chucked it in because it was, a way to show off what the Amiga 500 could do, which it certainly did. Because I remember first loading that up, Shadow of the Beast 2, and that intro and the music, and it just absolutely blew my mind. So yeah, Amiga will probably always be my favourite gaming system of all time. It's the fondest memories, and I still play it a lot. And a lot of those games that I discovered are the games that on the Amiga are the games that mean the most to me. Things like Monkey Island and things that really kind of defined my taste in gaming. Really, I think came from those Amiga days.
Cool. So I think that's a good point to move on to the next question, because this might be related. So, what do you play most in your games room? Is it? I'm guessing it's very similar to Marcus, point and clicks on old PCs, but you could be wrong.
Not really. I mean, I play through Day of the Tentacle quite a lot, and Monkey Islands, the first two, quite a lot. But other than that, I mean, I play. It's hard to say. I play a lot of like Amiga classics and stuff like Syndicate and the Cannon Fodder, and I play a lot of the old like stuff like Doom and the Doom clones on PC. The very early first-person shooters. And I play a lot of Mega Drive, just whatever on Mega Drive. And what have I been playing lately? Loads of arcade, Snow Brothers on the arcade. Because I do have a little bar top arcade like you.
Yeah.
But there's no room in here, so it's at work. So sometimes I play Snow Brothers at work on that. But I've got a Coin-Ops Xbox here, so I can also play it here. And I've got like a modded Dreamcast stick, that plugs into the original Xbox, so I can kind of play arcade games on that. So I've been absolutely murdering that game lately, trying to beat my high score. Yeah.
Awesome. I seem to remember from your Desert Island Games podcast as well that you're a little bit obsessed with Advance Wars on GBA.
Yeah, that's an understatement, I think. Like I got it the year it came out, which was 2003, and I've played it probably every year for the last whatever that is, 18 years. But I just binge it. I won't play it for about a year, and then I'll start playing it, and I'll literally play it every night for like 3 months. And I just can't get enough of it. I absolutely love that game. It's one of the games that just never gets boring for me. Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic.
When I was listening to that, it's been on my radar for a while to play it, and I actually had the first game I'd bought a little while ago to go and play on my modded GBA. Went and played it, and yeah, it was an amazing, really game. I did actually get stuck, so I'm gonna have to message you at some point about a certain level on the first one. I think it's like a submarine level where you've got to basically defend and not attack.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really. It seems easy, but then you start playing that level, and it's just like, why am I getting fucking obliterated?
Yeah. It can get really like tough, and sometimes they come out of nowhere. Like you're plodding along, and then just this extremely difficult level will pop up.
Yeah.
Or like the ones where there's fog and you can't see the enemies, or stuff like that.
Yeah. Cool. So we'll move on to question 7. Are there any challenges or problems when you built your current games room, or any still unsolved issues?
I mean, the biggest challenge in here is space. It's like a third little box room here, because because all these houses actually on this street, this room and the bedroom there were one room, and they kind of split it. And also, just here, I've got one of those horrible above the stairs box things, which you have in a lot of British houses, where, you know, you basically losing literally a quarter of the room to this stupid box that houses where the stairs go up so you don't bang your head. So that's like really annoying. Like if that wasn't there, I'd have so much extra space. And plugs, you know, you've got to like kind of work with where the plugs are, and the plug sockets in here are very few and far between, and not in a great place. And I can't, like, because we rent, I can't do stuff like, you know, that's probably an answer as well. But the fact that we rent is a real hurdle to building a games room, because you cannot make major modifications, like stuff like those Star Wars helmets. I've put the thing into the side of the cabinet instead of into the wall, because I don't want to drill them into the wall, because we don't own the house, and I can't just put plug sockets in and this and that and the other because we don't own the house. So that's kind of really a hurdle. Whereas if you own the house, you can plan it out and you can put the sockets in where you need them, and you can do this, that and the other, and put shelving in and blah 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 blah, you know.
Yeah, I have to say it was a great feeling when I could put some floating shelves into some actual brickwork. But yeah, it's nice to see games rooms that do sort of make use of, like you say, not being able to be modified in substantial ways. So yeah, it's a nice idea. So that leads us on to question 8. Is there any upcoming changes to your games room, or are you actually planning to buy a house, or you just kind of to...
No chance. Yeah, we can't buy a house here. It's way too much money here.
Right.
Yeah, I need like at least $100,000 deposit here, and I don't have that.
That's an incredible amount. I wouldn't be able to do that either.
Yeah. One day, but no time soon. You know, we just got to save and save and save. So one day. But we like this house. I don't mind renting. It's a lot of money a month, but you know, I don't mind renting. I think that's more the norm these days. Because I spent all my money on drink and drugs in my teens and 20s, so I don't have, you know, I didn't start saving any money until well into my 30s. So it's all my own fault. But yeah, I mean, modifications, not really. I mean, I think I've got it quite how I want it. I have put a thing over there. You can kind of see the corner of it there for records, because there was a massive overflow of records, so I had to shift a load of records in here, and then it actually worked out all right, because I've got the Vectrex on top of that now. But yeah, not really. I mean, stuff comes and goes, but in terms of like the setup, I'm really happy with it. I think that it's pretty much perfect. So hopefully.
So talking about changes can mean as well, are you planning to sort of upgrade anything, or are you happy with every piece of hardware in the current state?
Yeah, pretty happy. I think that, yeah, I think everything's fine. I think, well, I've got some like mods coming for the Amiga, like a custom case and keys and stuff, but that was like one of those Indiegogo things, and I backed it like years ago, and because of COVID, it just keeps getting pushed back. So I can't wait to get that, because my Amiga's looking like really yellowed, and it's a nice like black case modeled after like the CD32 colors. And then I'll have like, it comes with like 2-tone dark grey and grey buttons, and then I ordered another set of keycaps that are red, so I'm going to have like 3 colours of keycaps and a black case. So that's going to look awesome. But yeah, I mean, I don't think I need to really upgrade anything else. I think it's all good. You know, you never know what pops up. Stuff comes up and you're like, oh, I want that, you know. But at the moment, I'm kind of pretty happy with it, I think.
Yeah, sometimes you just want to upgrade or modify your room based on what's coming out, sort of thing, rather than planning anything.
Yeah.
So, final question for yourself before I get on to my favourite bit of your room. So, are there any tips you would give to people who are thinking of building a games room? So in your case, that would probably be, are there any tips you would give to people who are building a room in a small space that's rented? What would be your main tip to them?
Main tip I think would be like, because what I did in here is just, you know, literally months of writing down notes and drawings and tape measures. You know, that's no joke. I was writing and planning this out for ages. So like, you have to kind of, you know, there's cheap shelving there, but you have to see what's available and what the sizes are, measure it all out, measure your room, draw a little, you know, a few diagrams of the floor plan, work out what you can fit in and everything, because everything's so snug. Like, there's a little gap there you can see with the Mega Drive in, and that's pretty much the only gap in here. Everything is like completely fitted. And also the desk I got in here is custom made to fit. And then there's this riser thing that I've got my Trinitron and my monitor on that was custom made. And you know, that custom made stuff is not that expensive. There's loads of companies on Etsy and stuff doing this custom furniture, which I always kind of had in my head was like, you know, insanely expensive, but it really isn't. So if you can plan it out, get a tape measure out, measure exactly where you want stuff, what, you know, you've got to think before you even start this, what do you want out of the room? You know, like, do you want a little space where you can have a, you know, play some games? Do you want space for your, you know, for your games to be on shelves, this, that, and the other? Work out what you want to do. And then, yeah, just measure everything. You can measure, you know, obviously whenever you go to stuff like IKEA or whatever, they have all the measurements, you can work out what you can fit. But then, you know, that custom furniture stuff is an option if you want to, you know, have stuff made for you that kind of just makes most use of the space. And then obviously you have to think about things like where the plugs are in the room and all that. But I'd say that would be my biggest tip, is just like, make sure you don't rush into it. Just spend time planning it, because the more you plan it, the more you'll make use of the space. And I think, like, although this room is tiny, it doesn't feel tiny, because you come in here and I can have like 4 or 5 people in here playing games, and that, you know, the space, you know, for people to kind of sit in the middle, and when everything's turned on, it kind of just feels like it was designed quite well, which hopefully it was, you know. But I think it makes most use of the space. And if I just chucked it all in and then gone, you know, let's move this around and let's try and make use of the space after the fact, then it probably would have been a lot messier.
Yeah, that's great. That's really interesting, the fact you mentioned about the custom furniture. I'm like yourself, I would have thought that would be quite an expensive outlay to get that done. But yeah, Etsy's a good place to go for that sort of stuff. I can't say I've ever gone there for that purpose, but no, that's a good tip. Because yeah, I've actually got a friend who makes custom furniture on Etsy, but his stuff is like really finely artistic wood crafting stuff, and yeah, he sells it for a fortune. He sells like this wooden bowl for like 80 quid, and I'm like, Jesus, people pay that.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember what this desk was, but I mean, it's like a solid, proper wood desk, really thick, like this proper wood, you know, not like you'd get from like a flat pack furniture or anything, and like really sturdy metal legs and everything. It's nice. It's not huge, but I think it was only a couple hundred quid. I mean, what are you going to pay for a desk from IKEA or Argos or whatever?
Yeah, at least
it's probably not.
At least 150.
Yeah, so it's not far off.
Yeah, that's really cool. So that's the end of the questions for Pete. I'm just going to talk about my favorite bit of Pete's room before we end things. So I've already mentioned in this episode, there's vintage PCs in your room. Is there just the one vintage PC, and is big box PC games like a passion of yours to collect for?
Yeah, that's the only PC, is that Dell that we spoke about earlier. So I always had like the laptops, old school DOS laptops, because just there was no space, and having redesigned this room, and like finally I can get proper big PC in here. But yeah, big box games like in general. So like that whole cabinet there on the side is all big box, either Amiga or DOS. And that's just, yeah, I think it's the most nostalgic thing to me is those big box games and that era of going, you know, saving up a bit of pocket money and going to the software shop, and you're just judging games most of the time on the box art, you know, and all the gubbins you get inside. And you used to get, you know, like with the flight sims, you used to get like literally a whole book, which basically you could read and then fly a real plane, you know, sometimes. So, you know, that sounds like a joke, but you probably could. Which is insane. You know, you'd be lucky you could get a manual these days with games, and it's just nice seeing all the stuff you used to get back then. And I love the box art. I just love having them on display, and like stuff like, you know, Day of the Tentacle there and Dark Forces, and just my favorite games. It's great playing them, but it's great kind of just taking in the box art and the memories as well, you know.
Yeah, that's partly why it's my favorite bit of your room. So obviously some of the big box PC games are, like you say, absolutely enormous, and they've got really nice artwork, and some of the games are really hard to come by now. So yeah, it's nice to see someone who's got that and displaying that, which is really, really cool.
Cheers.
So that's the end of the episode, guys. If you've enjoyed this episode, comment and like down below. I'm just going to chat to Pete after this, but we'll see you very soon for episode 5. Cheers.